Welcome to the first episode of History Snippets Season 3. I'm Sarah, curator at Edwards Place in Springfield, Illinois, and it is good to be back. We are starting this season off with a man you may have heard of, Dr. Theodore Canisius. Theodore was born in Germany sometime between 1825 and 1830. In my limited research, I haven't really found any information on his younger years, except for the fact that it was said later that he had taken medical training in Germany. He immigrated to the United States sometime in the 1840s or 1850s, where it is also said that he received a medical degree from Hope's Medical College in St. Louis. I don't think he got both, but he stayed in the St. Louis area for a while in the 1850s, living in Edwardsville, and also publishing a newspaper in Alton called Die Freie Presse. Between 1854 and 1858, Teddy moved to Springfield to start a new paper, the Springfield Free Presse. Teddy still had his medical practice while operating the newspaper and moved it into his home in 1859, which was near the Edwards family. If you know who Theodore Canisius is, it is probably because of one of two things. The first is that he had a contract with Abraham Lincoln to run the Staatsanzeiger that started in 1859. Lincoln, through Theodore, purchased that newspaper and wrote a contract with Theodore, which stated basically that Teddy was allowed to use all of the equipment for the newspaper, provided that he continued to espouse the ideals promoted by Abraham Lincoln. If Lincoln felt at any time that that aim was not achieved, he retained the right to take back all of the equipment. The second reason that you may have known of Theodore Canisius is because of a letter that he wrote Abraham Lincoln on May 17, 1859, which afterward was published many times. In the letter, Teddy asked a question about a provision in Massachusetts that would not allow immigrants to vote. Lincoln voiced his support for immigrants, stating, "Understanding the spirit of our institutions to aim at the elevation of men, I am opposed to whatever tends to degrade them. I have some little notoriety for commiserating the oppressed condition of the Negro, and I should be strangely inconsistent if I could favor any project for the curtailing of the existing rights of white men, even though born in different lands and speaking different language from myself." For many, the story of our buddy Teddy ends there, but he actually led a pretty full life after he had his time on the paper. In fact, he went to be a U.S. ambassador in Austria, appointed by Lincoln himself in 1862. Less good was that he was later fired by Lincoln in 1865 for doing a poor job. He came back in 1867 to run for Secretary of State in Illinois. But many people did not want him for Secretary of State because it was thought that he did not support the Union during the war since he was over in Austria and didn't fight. So in 1868, Teddy moved to Aurora to open a sugar beet factory. In 1873, Teddy was appointed as one of the commissioners of the state penitentiary. Unfortunately, he was removed from his post in 1874 for neglect of duties. However, this may not have been Teddy's fault. The Daily Illinois State Journal claimed that the governor at the time was prejudiced against Germans, so in retaliation, President Grant appointed Teddy as U.S. ambassador in Bristol, England, to apparently get back at this governor. But Teddy's travels were not done yet. In 1880, he was reassigned to Germany in a town called Gestemünde, which is now part of the city of Bremerhaven. Chester Arthur moved him there, even though he really didn't want to go because the post was unpaid. The citizens of Bristol were apparently very sad to see Teddy go, and it was written in a lot of papers in England at the time. The Bristol Mercury and Daily Post wrote, "The doctor has not only given the greatest satisfaction in his important office, but he has by his genial manners and kindly nature won the esteem of all with whom he has been brought into contact." If you thought he was done, not quite yet. He moved one more time to a different ambassador post in 1882, this time to Samoa. His time there was not happy. He came back to the United States in 1885 in really ill health. After Teddy moved back to the United States, unfortunately, he suffered through poverty and ill health, as I've already mentioned, and passed away in 1885. With that not so happy ending, I'd like to thank you for joining us for History Snippets this month, and I hope you will join us again next month. Thanks.